Stop whatever you're doing for a moment and pay attention to me. Can you hear it? That soft, high-frequency tone, that constant buzzing that feels like it's coming from deep inside your head instead of the space around you. Most people know it as tinnitus. Your physician may have labeled it an age-related issue, given you information about a white noise device, and advised you to simply live with it. But I'm telling you today, as a medical researcher who has spent years examining clinical evidence many people overlook, that sound is not a permanent sentence to a noisy life. It is an emergency signal, a biological warning system. Your auditory nerve is crying out for support because it is being deprived of the resources it needs to operate correctly. And today, I'm going to explain exactly how we can help silence that alarm. Because if you're over 50 and your ears keep ringing, you don't just have a hearing issue, you have a cellular nourishment issue. And until we solve that deficiency, the sound is unlikely to disappear. I meet people like you every day in my clinic, and I want to tell you about a gentleman named Roberto. 62 years old, an exceptionally talented structural engineer. But when he came into my office 7 months ago, he barely resembled himself. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours per night in 3 years. He said to me, "Dr. Miller, the specialists tell me my tests look normal, but I feel like I'm losing control." I reviewed those normal results, and I'll tell you exactly what I told Roberto. Normal is often nothing more than the statistical average of an unhealthy population. Your doctor sees a vitamin B12 value near the lower end of the range and marks it as acceptable. I look at that same result and see a nerve slowly losing its protective covering, firing like a damaged electrical cable. When your auditory nerve misfires, your brain perceives a tone. That tone is an electrical glitch. If you've been told your tests are fine, but your head keeps ringing, you're being let down by a system that doesn't fully appreciate neurological nutrition. Today, we're going to take a closer look at 8 specific phantom noise fighters that conventional medicine frequently overlooks. To understand why the ringing continues, you first need to understand how delicate your hearing system truly is. Deep within your inner ear lies a tiny blood vessel called the labyrinthine artery. It's so narrow, so microscopic, that even a single red blood cell barely fits through it. Now think about what happens when your body becomes inflamed, or your blood becomes slightly thicker than normal. That tiny vessel tightens. The hair cells in your cochlea, the cells responsible for converting vibrations into sound, begin to lose oxygen. They don't simply die, they start functioning improperly. They begin sending false signals. This is where the 2025 research from Newcastle University becomes important. Researchers found that tinnitus is not only an ear problem, it's also the brain's inability to properly filter these faulty messages. It's a phenomenon known as neural synchrony, where brain cells begin firing together repeatedly in a continuous cycle. And if we fail to improve microcirculation and interrupt that cycle, the brain remains trapped processing sounds that don't actually exist. We must improve blood flow and nourish the cells to help reset the system. Let's begin with the first layer of protection, zinc. And I'm not referring to inexpensive multivitamins. Your inner ear contains one of the highest concentrations of zinc anywhere in the body, and there's a good reason for that. The hearing process generates tremendous oxidative stress, and zinc acts as an antioxidant defense. Without enough of it, hearing cells essentially begin to deteriorate. But here's what most people don't realize. You may be consuming zinc without actually absorbing it. I refer to these as the hidden saboteurs. If you're eating large amounts of phytates from processed grains or consuming excessive caffeine, you're actively preventing zinc from reaching your cochlea. You're undernourished while surrounded by food. Roberto believed he was eating well, but his morning habits were interfering with zinc absorption. We increased his intake of highly absorbable zinc, pumpkin seeds, and selected lean protein sources while removing the obstacles. Within a matter of weeks, the damage began to ease, and for the first time in years, the intensity of the ringing started to decline. Now, I need to tell you something that may surprise you. While attempting to help your ears, you may unknowingly be harming them. There is an entire category of compounds known as ototoxic medications. These include common products such as aspirin and certain anti-inflammatory drugs that can directly damage the delicate hair cells of the inner ear. They stimulate a surge of free radicals, overwhelming your zinc and magnesium defenses. If you're taking these regularly for headaches or joint discomfort, you're trying to extinguish a fire on one side while fueling it on the other. My approach with Roberto involved identifying these hidden irritants and replacing them with natural anti-inflammatory options such as curcumin and boswellia, allowing his ears an opportunity to recover and function more effectively. But zinc is only the first step. We also need to discuss insulation. Picture a high-voltage electrical wire. Remove the protective coating, and it hums, crackles, and sparks. That's very similar to what can happen to your auditory nerve. If your vitamin B12 levels aren't within the Miller optimal range, problems can develop. As we grow older, the stomach gradually loses efficiency in absorbing B12. This contributes to demyelination, the thinning of the nerve's protective covering. When that layer becomes thin, electrical signals leak. Your brain interprets those leaks as a persistent buzzing sound. I don't care if your laboratory report shows 300 or 400. For an older adult struggling with tinnitus, that's still inadequate. We want levels much closer to 800 before meaningful repair can begin. That's why Roberto's physician overlooked the issue. They were focused on avoiding disease, while I was focused on supporting recovery and optimal function. Have you ever noticed the ringing becomes louder during stressful periods? That's because of a neurotransmitter called glutamate. Glutamate acts like the accelerator pedal of the brain. During stress, your brain releases more of it into the auditory cortex. And if you don't have sufficient magnesium to function as the brake pedal, you enter a state called excitotoxicity. Your nerves fire so intensely and so rapidly that they begin damaging themselves. This is what I call the glutamate storm. It's the reason your ears may seem louder after a stressful day or a poor night's sleep. We must restore that braking system by increasing the right forms of magnesium through foods such as almonds, avocados, and dark leafy vegetables. In effect, we're lowering the volume on your internal amplifier. We're encouraging the nerves to settle down. And if you still believe vitamin D is only important for bones, you're thinking with information that belongs in the 1990s. The research published in Frontiers in Neurology in early 2026 has completely shifted the landscape. Vitamin D3 is a neurosteroid. It regulates the expression of hundreds of genes in your nervous system, including the genes responsible for protecting your auditory pathway. The study was clear. People with chronic bothersome tinnitus have significantly lower D3 levels than those who don't. Why? Because D3 is the repair foreman of the body. If your foreman is missing, the repairs never get done. You stay stuck in a loop of chronic inflammation. Most of you are hiding from the sun or using so much sunscreen that your D3 levels are in the gutter. We need to get you into that 15 minutes of direct morning sun, or prioritize wild-caught salmon and eggs to give your auditory nerve the currency it needs to fix itself. Have you noticed the beep is louder at 3 a.m.? It's not just because the room is quiet, it's because your ears have a circadian rhythm. At night, your body tries to enter system repair. If the raw materials aren't there, the zinc, the B12, the magnesium, and the repair process stalls. The brain detects the broken signal and amplifies it to find the problem. This is a neural feedback loop. To fix this, your final meal of the day must be your most nutrient-dense for the auditory system. We are going to time your intake to match your body's repair cycle, forcing the brain to recognize the fixed signal, and finally quiet the noise. We also have to address the thick blood problem. Your inner ear is supplied by vessels thinner than a human hair, and if your blood is filled with inflammatory markers, it becomes like sludge. It can't deliver the B12 or the zinc to the hair cells. This is where omega-3s come in. They are ear lubricants. They make the cell membranes fluid, flexible, alive. And when you pair that with the vascular protocol, using natural vasodilators like ginger, garlic, and ginkgo biloba, you are essentially opening the floodgates. You are allowing the nutrients to finally reach the starving cells. I saw this in Roberto's 4th month. He came in and said, "Dr. Miller, the noise is still there, but it's further away. It's not in the front of my mind anymore." That is the sound of blood finally reaching the auditory nerve. So, what does this mean for you tonight? Tonight, I want you to commit to my auditory rescue dinner. We're talking about a piece of wild-caught baked salmon for the D3 and omega-3s. We're pairing that with a massive salad of baby spinach for the magnesium topped with a handful of raw pumpkin seeds for the zinc. We dress it with olive oil, fresh lemon, and a grating of fresh ginger to kickstart that microcirculation. That one meal provides a massive biological payload of exactly what your ears are starving for. Do not expect a miracle in 24 hours. Your nerves took years to starve. They will take weeks to recover. But in my research, the The first moments of silence usually begin to appear between week 3 and week 6. Roberto didn't just get his silence back, he got his life back. Last month, he sent me a photo of him at a park playing with his 8-year-old daughter. He told me, "Doctor, I can hear her laugh again, and without the whistle competing for my attention." That is why I do this. That is why I challenge the normal diagnosis, because you deserve silence. You deserve to go to bed tonight and hear nothing but your own breathing. I want you to share this video with one person you know who is suffering, because millions are being told there is no cure when the cure is sitting right on their dinner plate. Write to me in the comments. How long has your alarm bell been ringing? I read your stories. They are the fuel for my next research project. I am Dr. Sarah Miller, and your health is the only metric that matters. I'll see you in the next video.